What's cracking, everyone? My name is Eric, and today we're back again with scripting. So this time we're going to be looking at functions. So if we open up our script here and begin. Now, before we actually start off the video, I'll just talk about last video's challenge, which was to find out if a certain number is a prime number or not. So the way I've done it is that I've created two variables. The first one is called number, and is the number we want to test if it's a not variable, prime number or not. The second one is just a variable to tell us if the number is actually a prime number or not. So the thing is that if something is not a prime number, the number that it's divisible by will always be between 1 and that number. So for example, 12, besides 1 and itself, it can also be divided by 2, 3, 4, and 6. And you'll notice that all four of those numbers are between 1 and 12, meaning that what we can do is we can create a for loop that runs from 2 up to the number, which you can see I've done here. So I've said for I equals 2 up to the number and then do. So now it runs through every number from 2 to the selected number. Now, at each cycle, we test if our number modulus the current cycle is equal to 0. So remember, if x modulus y is equal to 0, that means that x is divisible by y. So if this is the case, then we set the is prime number to false, and then continues. Now, why aren't we starting it at 1? I'll leave it to that one. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out. I'll pin the answer down in the comments below. But if you want to give yourself a little challenge, try figuring out why we aren't starting it at 1, but instead at 2. And then after we've done this for loop, we just take a simple if statement. We look at if it's a prime number, then it says the number is a prime number. And if that's not the case, then it just says the number is not a prime number. So anyway, let's just test this out. So my number is 13, which is a prime number because besides 1 and 13, you can't divide it by anything else. So I'll just open up the output console and then I'll test it right here. So hopefully what we should see is that the console prints out the number is a prime number. Now, as you can see here, when we load in, we just wait for it to load in here, and you can see that it doesn't work. One moment. Right, so we're back again. So I had made a little mistake. Now the thing is, it actually ran up to the number. Now the thing is, this means that it will also take the number, meaning that the number can always be divided by itself. So it will always be able to divide, and thus it will think it's never a prime number. So I've just fixed that for the same reason that we don't start at I equals 1. So it goes from 2 to the number just below our prime number. So let's play test this again. That was a bit embarrassing, but yeah. Let's look at this. Mistakes do happen like this every once in a while. So yeah, hopefully you don't feel too bad about making mistakes as I'm doing them here on camera. But as you can see, it's not working just fine, and it says the number is a prime number. Now, if we went ahead and changed the number to 8 or 10 or something, which isn't a prime number, it would of course say the number is not a prime number. But we gotta crack on with this video. So let's get started. Today's video is going to talk about functions. So functions are another type of scope that run once. So this is basically a block of code that you may want to run multiple times. Now the thing is, the thing that differs functions from loops is that functions you call yourself, like you choose when they get called. Loops just run, and they do it at a certain pace. So you can't really control it. Whereas functions, you can like you can like control. You can call them at your own will. To create a function, we say local as if it was a variable function, and then we give it a function name. So we're gonna call this function print hello, and then you include an empty pair of parentheses like this. So it's very similar to creating a variable. However, instead of saying local, you say local function, and then you give it the name and as well as an empty pair of parentheses. But yeah, this is actually a two-part video. Next video we'll talk about why we have these parentheses and all that. So Once you click enter similar to all scopes, it creates an enforce right there. So everything that's in between these, everything that is indented, as it's called, is in the function. So let's say I want to say print hello. Now, obviously, if I only wanted to print hello, I would just say print hello whenever I wanted it. But you can imagine that this is going to be a lot more complex, to the point where it isn't writing worth writing multiple times. So let's go down here. Now we have a function. However, if we would spawn in, if we were to spawn in, this wouldn't actually print hello, and that's because we need to call the function. So calling a function is basically where you tell it to run. So to call a function, you just type out the name of the function, and you should see it pop up here, and it should pop up with these pair of empty parentheses. So so now we've called it. So what we do is we declare this function first, and then we call it by saying its name and parentheses. So let's open up the output, and hopefully it should print hello. Now it's not just printing hello because we ask it to, but because we put the print hello statement in a function, and then that function is then getting called. So as you can see, it prints hello. Now, another thing I want to talk about is parameters. So I originally thought this was going to take a lot longer, but we'll talk about that in a bit and not another video. So also, you can't call a function before you declare it. So similar to a variable, you declare it. This wouldn't be possible. You can't call a function that isn't existing, or you can see it gives us an error, and it's for the same reason that you can't call a variable. So it's similar to if I say print variable, and then I make the variable, which is called variable. I can't do that. You obviously first have to declare the function and then call the function. So another thing is parameters. So let's say I want to create a function that adds numbers. So this function is going to add numbers. Now the problem is that as it is right now, it can only add two certain numbers. However, I want I want to use the same function, but just with different numbers every time. So what I can do is that I can add parameters. Now parameters are basically like settings or inputs that can change from every time you call the function, but are still being treated the same way. So in this case, our parameters are the two numbers we want to add together. So obviously they can change from time to time, but they're always going to be added together. So to add parameters, you can add as many as you want. You just type the name of the parameters, is just like a variable, and then separate them by a comma. And then you say num2. So now you can see that we have two parameters. We have the one called num1 and num2. Now what we can say is we can say local result equals num1 plus num2. Num2, like that, and then it prints the result, just like that. Now whenever we call the function, not only do we need to call the function add numbers, we also need to specify the parameters. So remember, this is what the blank parenthesis is for. So this parenthesis right here corresponds to this parenthesis right here. So you can type in your parameters and separate them with a comma, just like you wrote your parameters up here. So in this case, my num1 is 2 and my num2 is 3. So just like that. Now, now what we do is that we call this function and we give the parameters 2 and 3. So this takes the parameters 2 and 3, adds them together in its function, and then prints that out. So it's now going to print the result of 2 plus 3, which is 5. So what we are expecting here is that it now prints out 5. Now if we just wait for it to load in here, and you can see it says 5 like that. So it took our input from when we called it. You can imagine, you can of course change this. So you can set it to be 3 and 4, and then it would print out 0. No, not 0, sorry, 7. But yeah, that was pretty much it. We'll still do a two-part video, but that's pretty much everything I have for functions right now at the moment. Functions are pretty handy. I use them quite a lot. You'll also be using them quite a lot. Now, with functions, you're actually starting to you're starting to know the basics. So if you've understood most, or not necessarily everything, but like most of what I've talked about so far, you're already a pretty decent scripter. You have like the basic building blocks that you need. So from now on, it's going to get a bit more complex, but and it's going to be built on these simple things that you need, like loops, if statements, functions, etc. So yeah, so far it's already going really well. Like these videos have progressed faster than I intended, or sorry, expected. But yeah, that was pretty much it for. Actually, no. Before we end the video, we of course need to give a challenge. So similar to one is pretty basic. It's the exact same challenge as yesterday, where you need to yeah, you need to find out if a certain number is a prime number, but you need to do it by a function. So I'm gonna create a function called prime finder, and then you're gonna have to set the number that you want to find out if it's a prime number or not as a parameter. So so the number I set as a parameter, and then I use that number variable to test. And then what you need to do is that you call the function with the number that you want to test. So pretty basic. It's basically a function wrapped around yesterday's challenge. But yeah, good luck with that one. Anyway, that was pretty much it for next time. Next video is gonna be a part 2 to functions. We'll talk about returning. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll hit you up in the next video, and goodbye.